You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. Welcome to Beast Over Burden. I'm one of your hosts, Niki Sims. I'm the CXO and a strength and nutrition coach at Barbell Logic. With me is Andrew Jackson.
Hello.
He's our COO, also a strength and nutrition coach. And we are joined by two people who I'm really excited to introduce you to. One of them is a fellow coach, Joel Rasmussen.
Good morning.
Joining us from Australia. So good for you to be here. Also, we have with us Melissa MacGregor, who you've heard about from our coach, Mac MacGregor, and she is here in the flesh. This is a continuation of an episode we did with Mac MacGregor. I think it's called Strong Families. And he told us the story of how he got into lifting, how he got into coaching. And a big part of that was to help Melissa rehab after suffering a stroke while she was 10 weeks pregnant. And through that process, he did what he could to help, but then a similar story emerged of the difficulty of coaching your spouse. It's a really interesting dynamic, and it didn't work for them. So Joel to the rescue, saved the marriage, saved Melissa's strength, and over a good amount of time.
And Mac's sanity.
Yeah. He's been able to take her from, highly modified movements to just crushing it in the gym. And so we wanted to hear more about what that story was like. I'm curious to kick things off, Joel. What was it like when you and Melissa were introduced and you were getting things started?
Yeah, so it was interesting. So I'd had a look. It was August 19 when we first started working together.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And Melissa came in with a bunch of just odd things. So she could stand up in the squat. There's drop foot going on. No bar speed. When the barbell was coming down in, say, the bench press, she would just crush her sternum with the barbell. And just a lot of red flags. Like, what is going on here? So we got to have a discussion more about what had happened with the stroke and started working through those symptoms and had a bit of a picture. Then we had a bit of a chat with you and my coach at the time, who was Will, who saved me from my injury. And we started developing a plan for Melissa, went from there.
And so this was 7 years after the stroke, if I remember correctly?
Stroke was in 2011.
11, okay.
So, yeah.
And what prompted it, just for those that heard Mac's version of the story, what prompted you to want to finally look for coaching outside of Mac?
Well, over in the UK, we have the NHS. And when things go catastrophically wrong, as they did for me, they're very good at putting you back together again. But it's the journey after that, when you come out of hospital and you're okay, but you need to keep living your life and you want to do all the things that you used to do. And there isn't really a lot of options out there. We had tried a few things. There is a fantastic organisation literally down the road from us called Move Forward. They're a rehabilitative unit and they work with a myriad of people, stroke victims and people suffering from Parkinson's, all sorts. But it's finding something you can do every week on a regular basis that is going to make you stronger and is going to help you with everyday life. And there is nothing else out there apart from the Barbell Logic guys. Mac had been, looking for things himself because of his own health problems with the colitis. There were a lot of things he couldn't do, and he really found strength training worked for him. And we thought, well, if it works for him, can it work for me? And we decided to explore that. And that's where we ended up. And I was very lucky. I started off with Brittany for a couple of weeks because they used to rotate the coaches. It was a wonderful start. Really, I'm very grateful to Brittany for just sort of taking my hand and leading me in on the start of this journey. And then I had Joel, and Joel's been fantastic. I think really one of the big reasons is he's gone through something very similar himself, with his back injury. So he knows what it's like for somebody to have to recover, to go through that rehabilitation to get their life back, to get them doing all the things that they want to do.
And Joel, just for the folks that might not be familiar with your situation, can you walk us through what your backstory was? Pun intended. Dunch.
My backstory. Yeah, so I fell off a ladder and herniated 5 discs.
Oh, wow.
And the interesting thing about the injury was I didn't feel it when I did it. It was the next day when I woke up, I was crippled from my hips down on one side, and just blinding agony. So, and it changed everything. So I was a tradesman at the time. I couldn't walk. And thank goodness, through Barbell Logic, we just happened to have a coach who rehabbed that kind of thing. And so we walked through it. So it was 6 months of hell, but it was, you're not going to have the surgery. They wanted to do a spinal fusion. And now that I've read up on that, would have been surgeries for the rest of my life as they worked up my back, as they tend to. And I'm relatively pain-free. I can walk. So really, like, barbells and training saved my life and my career.
Were you training with barbells before that?
I was. I actually started training because I had a herniation in my neck and I started dropping wine glasses all the time.
I do that too, but...
Unacceptable.
This was on the first glass.
Okay.
That's when you know the issue's in. So we started training. Then my wife and I bought a rack and we started training together. And it was about a year into training when I fell off the ladder and had a couple of grade 3 herniations, which they were pushing pretty hard to have surgical intervention on. And thank goodness we didn't do that. Thank goodness I was convinced otherwise. And
what was the, if any, did you have to change your mindset about training when pre and post accident? Like, was there a...
Big time. Yeah. I think it's allowed to suck. Training is allowed to hurt and you're allowed to push into it. I mean, and Niki's had a back injury too, and you'd know this, where sometimes it's just medicine. And I think gratitude, every single little bit of movement you get back, and Melissa would say this too, it's like, thank God for this. Thank goodness that I've been able to push myself and get this little piece of me back.
How's that been from your perspective, Melissa? Similar kind of experience for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Before I had the stroke, I was a really active person. I did all sorts of things. And also, when I'd had the stroke, our eldest daughter, she was only about 15 months at the time. She just started walking and I couldn't. And that's really hard. So I think one of my motivations has been, well, I want to be fit again so I can do all these things with my children, to be able to just, I think people take a lot of things for granted, but the simple pleasures of being able to walk properly, being able to cycle, to run, to lift, to ski, those are important things for me.
When, Mac told us the story about how you would crush him on runs and yeah.
He'll never let me forget that.
When you were going back and starting to work with Joel, what was that like to kind of feel like you were starting from square one and setting expectations? Like, was that part of the conversation that you guys had at that point in time?
I think one of the things about lifting, I hadn't lifted before. So in terms of cycling and the skiing, I'd got to a certain level. But with the lifting, I hadn't done any of this before. Every day was a PR day to begin with.
Right.
And there was no sort of feeling of, I used to be able to do that and I could lift that much, because I didn't know. So it was quite empowering, to be honest, to be able to do something completely new. You didn't have to judge yourself. It wasn't, I used to be able to do that. It's, I haven't done this before and let's see where it takes me.
What about for you, Joel, when you were coming back? What was your expectation management like?
I was just desperate to get out of pain. So my toes were like stuck, curled together because I had the neurological damage and that constant fire down the leg. So it was just like, I'll do whatever it takes to get rid of this.
Wow.
And I mean, I had a great coach too. So thank God for that. And it was like, you will get through this. And it was just having that encouragement on the other side. And I think that's why having a coach is so important, to tell you it's like, there is a process. You will get through this.
How did you approach that with Melissa? Having gone through it yourself, the variables with her, and with any individual client, I think are a little bit different, right? So I'm curious what your process was for customizing it to work with her, and down to the detail of like, how did you think about the exercise selection, the set and rep, the load management, and doing that all asynchronously?
Yep. So with a stroke, I always get the word wrong, but it's like you lose your primary sensations. So like when we're lifting, it's like proprioception is key. So where your body is in space. And so what we had to do is we would play with Melissa's other senses. So I think it's the somatosensory cortex is what normally gets hit when you have a stroke. And so for Melissa, and I read through some of our old cues, it's like, well, she can't feel where her body is, but if we were to slap her arm and she was to have pain in the region, then we'd probably buy her 3 reps on a press where she could feel the pins and needles of the pain in her arm to be able to do 3 presses. So we would limit it to 3 presses in the beginning.
Wow.
For the bench press, Melissa couldn't feel where the bar was in space. I'm acting it. Hopefully people are watching this too, because if not, so she couldn't feel where the bar was moving. So we would roll a towel up and put it on her chest, and she would feel the bar leaving her hands as the bar got closer to her chest. It would start to leave her. And so instead of crushing down, it would hit the towel first. And so she'd be able to feel that. So then she would learn where a bench press would finish.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Say for a squat, we'd wrap her knees because she could feel heat. Or I remember one of them, and I can't remember if you ever let Mac do this, Melissa, but it was like, get Mac in to come and slap you on the thighs and the butt so you would feel all up your leg.
Yes.
Did he end up doing it?
Bet he loved that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. He didn't need to be asked twice.
He still does it today.
Trust me, I'm a coach.
We do this to all our clients.
Yeah, Joel told me.
Joel, how did you come up with these ideas?
A lot of it, I've got to give credit to Dr. Morris.
Oh, yeah, he's wonderful.
Because he did that with me.
Cool.
Yeah. And anything neurological is like you come up with another system that works for where you're lacking. So we did this for me when I couldn't use my leg. I'd stomp and stomp and stomp and stomp until like the bottom of my feet would burn. Then I could deadlift through that foot.
Wow.
So we just had to adapt that to Melissa, who had all sorts of different neurological we're just trying to find where and fill those gaps.
So this is even more than when you said pain, or I think you said it's going to suck or something along those lines. It's not just that pain is occasionally going to be part of the process. You were creating pain as a signal to pursue. Like, we have to create this sensation that most people would think of as pain, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Using pain as a sense, really.
Wow.
Wow.
What was that like for you, Melissa? Was that scary, or how did you approach that?
I mean, my sensation is limited, so I probably don't experience pain in the same sense that others would. And as you say, the relief of actually feeling something and going, yeah, this is actually working. Yep, it's doing what it should do. Yeah, so I think pain's very different for each person.
That is a really interesting point, because I think, I have clients that as soon as they sense pain, the immediate thought is something's broken. And I need to do everything possible to avoid that. It sounds like you have a totally different model for that, Joel.
Yeah, and I think there is a bracket around pain, and that's something that we would say me. It's like we've got to get so close to the injury that we're feathering on the edges of pain, and we're constantly there because that's how we know we're making progress. So for a neurological injury, like a back, we want to lean as close as we can to it. For Melissa, we're using it as a signal because she's not getting any other signals. So pain can be a fantastic thing. It's just how you use it and where you frame it, I guess.
And was it, Melissa, you said it's PRs every day. Was it just a LP straight line up, or was it kind of a day by day thing?
I think so. Initially, certainly in the first year,
Oh, wow.
Now that we're well into it, I'm not getting PRs an awful lot, but
We all feel that.
but that's not important anymore. Now, for me, it's just moving, keep lifting. It's not so much the numbers. I mean, you go back to pain as well. I think that's also demonstrates how much trust you have in your coach. If I was training with somebody else and feeling pain, I would be thinking, yeah, I'm not doing this right. I need to stop. But I know when I'm training with Joel that what I'm feeling is what I'm supposed to be. And it's not something to be worried about. So I have a lot of trust in his capabilities as a coach. And he knows the way that my body moves. He knows what's going to work for me. And I trust that.
That's powerful stuff.
What kind of schedule did you do for the first, few months? How many days a week and what were your sessions like?
I think we were doing 3 times a week, weren't we, Joel?
Yeah, 3 or 4 depending on the week.
Yeah, generally 3. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we would use is for us, when we have to move something, it's just like, brain tell arm to move. For Melissa, it was a lot more bandwidth. So what we had to play with is so for her to do a squat might be the most exhausting thing her mind has had to do because she's playing with all these other senses to pull it together. So instead of stress of the body, it was more stress of the neurological system, for lack of a better term. We'd push into that until Melissa felt more and more comfortable with it. And once she was able to go say, I feel great after the set of squats, can we now pursue more? And that's one thing I have to say here is the people who get better are the people who train like crazy people. And Melissa did. She pushed and pushed. And we would get together as other coaches and have a chat about it. And it's like, Melissa just does not stop. And so she has earned every single one of her milestones is because Melissa does not stop.
Oh, thank you.
You've made me cry more than any of my clients, Melissa. Send me videos of you riding a bike or climbing a wall. It's extreme sports. Most people don't do what you do. And you've done it with a stroke. Yeah. Goodness, woman.
It sounds like there's a lot of mutual trust and respect in both directions.
It's Stockholm Syndrome. Yep.
So 5 years in, almost, coming up in 5 in August, what kind of goals and how has the training evolved over that time? What do you work on? If it's not the weight going up, is it sustaining? Do you think of it as maintenance, or do you still kind of find those edges that you're kind of trying to push?
It's making sure I can do all the sports that I like doing. So previous year, I wanted to get back to skiing. So I wanted to make sure my legs were strong enough to get me up the top of the hill. We ski in Scotland, so you're not sitting on a chairlift and admiring the view. You are hanging on to a metal pole being dragged up the mountain. And
it's rope tow the whole way up?
Yeah, rope tow. Yep. Mm-hmm. And the ground is not smooth. It's like a roller coaster.
Oh, wow.
And the skiing itself is fine, but you got to get up the hill. And that's when I knew my training was paying off, that I could hold on to this pole for dear life and get to the top.
Oh my gosh.
Skiing down, fine.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
Yeah, they do say, if you can ski in Scotland, you can ski anywhere in the world. And the cycling as well.
What was that like, getting to the top of the mountain the first time after, how long had it been?
10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely amazing. Felt as good as the very first time I ever skied as a youngster. That first point where you stand at the top of the mountain, you look down, you think, I'm going to get to the bottom in one piece.
Oh, that's so cool. And did you have the same sort of motor control challenges with skiing that you had to kind of relearn what it felt like to turn or to...
Yeah, balance is a big thing. The drop foot is normally what really holds me back. But at least with the skiing, your foot's locked into the ski boot. So that really helped. And also with the balance, because you've got the skis, you've got a big surface area, I think the skiing was probably a little easier to get back to because of those reasons. The sport that was the most challenging to get back to was the bike. Getting back onto 2 wheels again. And that was mentally exhausting as well, because I'm having to really think, what direction am I going in? What am I focusing on? What are my hands doing? And I don't think I could have managed that if I hadn't been doing the strength training with Joel, because you've got so much to think about when you're lifting. Because I'd been doing that for several years, when I went back to cycling again, I applied the same principle, really.
Wow. I mean, it just sounds like you're having to rewire your brain almost, learn how to ride a bike again.
Yeah.
And it's something we did as kids that don't even think about anymore, that you had to approach as if it was the first time you were doing it again.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, with the cycling, I did feel when I finally got back onto the bike again and I was getting comfortable on the bike, it felt pretty much how it did before the stroke. The balance is sorted out now. The way that I move now on the bike is pretty much how it was before. And that's remarkable.
Wow.
I was curious how hungry you were with your body, like repairing and your nerves making new connections and your brain working so hard. Were you just like ravenous?
Not a huge amount, funnily enough. No.
Wow.
I mean, I've always had a pretty good appetite, but I don't think it really went up a lot. In fact, I actually struggled to eat enough protein, really. I'm slow when I eat. So if I was going to have to eat more, I'd have to sort of eat really, really quick before I hit that sort of, level of fullness. So I do struggle with that, to be honest.
Joel, you're a nutrition coach as well. Was that part of your conversations through the process?
Not really in the beginning. It's been a chat actually more recently. It's like, I want to put some more weight on now.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, not really. She had a fair bit else going on at the time.
Yeah.
And one thing which I found really interesting, and I still do today, is all of those crutches that we had to put around her lifting, she doesn't need them anymore. So, and they always go. I mean, it's not like it was a recent stroke. This was some time ago before she started training. But Melissa has her balance back and she's getting some of her proprioception back. And we don't have to trick her body into lifting anymore. So I think that whole space of, once you've had a stroke and it's been a few years, that's the body you've got. I don't believe that. And Melissa is a living example of, no, she clawed that back.
Wow. Is there anything else that changed your perspective on things over the last 5 years of working with Melissa as a coach?
For me, I think it changed for me because I've heard the same with spinal injuries as well. It's like after a year, you've got what you've got. And I found that quite depressing because I've still had issues with my leg and my foot, and that's just not true. I found that I've got more range of motion back. My calves have gone back to normal size, and there has been some healing that's happened there. And I think we've had to force it through training. And I think for Melissa as well, what I've noticed with her is over the last sort of 5 years, like I remember she said, I can't even balance. I can't sit on a bike when we first trained. And now she's going mountain biking. So you can get that back. So it's completely changed my view on how the body heals and how you can force it to.
I had a roommate. We were both in our early 30s, and he had a back tweak doing CrossFit at the time and went and saw a spinal surgeon. And the guy told him, if we don't do surgery on your back in the next 6 months, it will be like this forever. And basically scared him into getting back surgery, to which it didn't actually fix the problem. It got incrementally a little better, but it's really just been through life and training and him kind of continuing to push that things have gotten slowly better. But I just found that in hindsight now, especially, very strange that you would use fear to kind of pressure somebody into doing a surgery,
Yeah, or scare them out of their body.
Right.
I find fear to be a big challenge with overcoming those kinds of situations. That the pain, again, is meaning something is broken, or that the thing that you're doing is going to make it worse. That's a tough one because you've got experts out there in the field kind of arguing both sides. And it's like a lot of things in the fitness industry where it's hard for the average person to know like which mental model to believe in. Is it the mental model that we're on the verge of injuring or damaging our body and we have to do things perfectly? Or is it that we can incrementally minimum effective dose our way into adapting to our bodies, stressing our body in a way that it will adapt to what we challenge it with? And it sounds like your model that you're approaching is the latter, that you can find that edge of discomfort and the body will adapt to that.
Yeah. And it's like all things, when you're on the edge of discomfort or pressure or something like that, that's where you're going to grow, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Melissa, it sounds like you're kind of just hardwired to do that. Is that is that how you've been your whole life, to seek that discomfort?
I think I've been stubborn.
And that's why you're married to Mac?
I'm used to suffering.
I mean, joking aside, Max he's kept me going. He's been the one who has pushed me through this process. If I'm a little bird, he's the daddy bird just pushing you out the nest, going, you can do this, spread your wings and do it. He's never given up. And I felt, well, I'm not going to give up either. I'm going to do this for you. So yeah, family's that's a big thing for me. You know, you want to be there for them. They believe in you. So you're going to do it.
Love it. That's awesome.
I have to go back. I'm curious, you said earlier, Joel, about like feathering or getting like within a feather's distance of the pain to know that you're in the right place. What does that actually feel like? And what does it sound like when you actually prescribe that in movement?
Yeah, so I think, so let's have an example. So the cocaine deadlift is the lift that we always joke about.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
we've had to rebrand to floating deadlift when I started having to give it to teenagers to do. But it was originally the cocaine deadlift, and we became professionally the floating deadlift.
Okay. Well, the floating deadlift is a great example of that, because most people can't pull from the floor. So when you've had a couple of disc herniations, and the floating deadlift is almost a physical representation of you're getting as close as you can to that point where your spine says no. You're pausing there for a little bit where it hurts, and it's like an isometric contraction, and then you're coming back up again. With any sort of injury, you can find a range of motion as close as you can to that acute injury. You don't want to get to that acute pain, but there's a lot of feathering as you get closer and closer to it. I think you'll find. I mean, and you've just done this with your back, Niki, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm back to pulling on the floor. I think it might actually feel better than pulling from blocks for some reason. Maybe speaking to what you're saying. But it feels good to use those muscles. It doesn't feel good to not use those muscles.
Yep. And how are they going to heal if you don't use them?
Right.
Or strengthen, or whatever the word you want to use. So yeah, it's getting as close as you can to like the movement you can't do. So like for bench presses, I mean, we use blocks or space them from the chest for people who've got a shoulder injury. And we get as close as we can to see if we can get that shoulder still moving. If we don't bench press ever again, then what happens to that shoulder? We have people walking with frozen shoulder, or people that can't lift their arms above their head. So what good are we doing our clients by saying, yeah, no, because that's sore, we can't approach that sore spot ever again? It's just like going, okay, we don't need their arm anymore. You're 50, maybe another 40 years, you've got another arm. How does that work?
How do you deal with the psychology of that sometimes leading to 2 steps forward, 1 step back? There'll be, some series of workouts where things feel like they're getting better. And then there's like the back seizes up again. It's like, oh, nope, that was too much. And now all of a sudden you're having to either reduce range of motion or the load, which can feel like, all I'm doing is beating my head against the same wall over and over again. How do you manage or mitigate that risk?
Yeah, I mean, you can't mitigate the risk altogether, because that's how you learn. I think the best clients, and I found this with Melissa as well, is like, we are going to experiment. You are a walking experiment here. And if you have that attitude where you're like, yeah, what am I going to do? I've got this body for the rest of my life. I might as well see what I can do with it. And so I find that it's a good conversation you can have as a coach with your client going, it's like, look, let's just play with this. We're not going to try hurt you, but we're going to try to get as close as we can to get the best bang for your buck. And how far do you want to go? And you'll have that conversation. And so for Melissa, it was like, we're going full in. I want to be mountain climbing within a year. So she just went straight for it.
No pressure.
Yeah. Some clients are more sensitive to pain. They didn't play sports when they're young. This is the first time their body has really pushed back on them. And so it's that gentle conversation of, okay, how far are we willing to go? And when it does happen, it's like, it's okay. In a couple of days, you're going to feel better. And then we're going to experiment this way. We can frame it a different way, Those people obviously are awesome. And that's, you can't talk about your clients without tearing up. Like, how good are our clients? You see them have these battles every damn week.
Yeah. Melissa, did you have any days like that where it felt like a big step back, or a week or a month, or life kind of sideswiped you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How did that feel?
Really frustrating, to be honest. It'd be something simple as catching a cold or tweaking your back. I've tweaked my back quite a few times, or something hurts, it's an elbow. And yeah, it is frustrating, but that's why you have a coach. If I was doing this by myself, I'd have given up a long, long time ago. But that's the beauty, the secret to success is a good coach.
It's so hard to only see your limitations. And especially when there's pain, everything gets really small. It's hard to imagine 3 years from now. It's hard to imagine what things could be like in more time. And I think a coach is really helpful for seeing beyond your limitations and actually seeing the options that we wouldn't even imagine of or even think would be useful to try. I love that. It's like, and you said it really well, Joel. You said you help people not give up on their bodies. And I think that is so important. Every single year we get to be alive is like, what's the body we have today? What's it going to be like in the next year?
Yeah.
What do you have a next sport that you want to tackle?
Yeah. What's your plan this year, Melissa?
Rugby?
No. Yeah. I want to get back on the ski slopes again. Weather's a huge issue up in Scotland, you know. You don't get a lot of snow. And when you do, it's too much that you can't physically get to the ski slopes.
I was just going to say, I thought I heard a story about there being a massive storm you guys just barely dodged a few weeks back.
Yeah. But it's getting back. So I've got back on the skis. Now I want to improve my technique. And I can only do that if my legs are stronger. So that's going to be something. The balance is there, but now I need to get the strength, the stamina to keep going, to keep skiing. I've just got back into rock climbing. I'm relying a lot on my arms and upper body strength because the right foot with the drop foot doesn't stay on the wall particularly well. So, trying to improve my rock climbing. I'm going to have to, again, build up leg strength and I suppose work on, is it proprioception? I've got that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a big thing as well. So, I think that's my next set of goals.
From the coach perspective, Joel, how much different is her training than anyone at 5 years in or 6 years in? Is it pretty much the same as how you program others, or are you still having to make a fair number of modifications?
No, it's almost just like training anyone else now.
Yeah.
So the first 2 years were interesting, and now she's just a standard old client.
Old, definitely.
Yep. He said the O word.
Yeah. I think the only limitation we have is I don't think we can deadlift from the floor yet.
No, not yet.
I'm not sure the drop foot.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, everything else, she's lifting completely, exactly the same as anyone else. It's fantastic.
That is awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys both coming on and sharing your stories. It's inspiring and I think will help a lot of people. I already have 2 or 3 clients of my own right now that I want to send this to when it gets out. And
cool. I hope it helps.
Yeah, it's really impressive, both as a client and a coach, what you guys have been able to accomplish together as a team.
Thank you.
And just before we go, I just want to say, Melissa, I am so damn proud of what you've done. It's been so much fun working with you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been great working with you. I'm looking forward to the next 10, 20 years. You are stuck with me. You realize that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think you are both special, both been able to keep going. And I see that in both of you. You, like, for you, not moving was not an option. And you figured out how to make that happen. And that's so moving. Not pun intended.
Well done.
Well, thank you again. And if you enjoyed this episode, if you said wow nearly as many times as we did, share it with someone who might be going through something similar where they could really use some inspiration to keep moving. Also, we would love a review, and we will see you here next week on Beast Over Burden.